This is the Anna Gale Lines Podcast, where we equip you with the tools and insights to take charge of your life and thrive. And here is your host, life coach and author, Anna Gale Lines.
Forgiveness is a complex and deeply personal process. It's not a sexy or glamorous topic, but it is a necessary topic. Because at some point in our lives, each and every one of us deal with a forgiveness issue. For me, it was my mother. And while she was alive, she was controlling and manipulative, and she would withhold affection from you when you didn't do what she wanted. She would threaten to do herself bodily harm if you didn't do what she wanted. And so when she was here, she would keep reopening the wound every time I would try and forgive her. But when she passed, I had to make a decision that I needed to forgive her and go through that process because I couldn't move on with my life. Unforgiveness does not hurt the other person. It hurts you. Unforgiveness is not about the other person and their actions. It's about you and how you feel about what they've done to you or what you perceive that they've done to you. And we need to, make that choice that we're going to forgive in order to move on. But a lot of us don't want to make that choice because we feel like it's an acceptance of their behavior. It's not an acceptance of their behavior. It's an acceptance that you're never going to change them and that you just need to forgive them and move on. But why do people not forgive? One is because they're hurt and they feel betrayed. Like if you've got an ex who cheated on you, that wound runs deep and you feel like forgiving that person is like donating that air, but it's not. Forgiveness, again, about you and not the other person. That other person, your ex, is going to go on with their lives like they've always done, whether you forgive them or not. It is not going to affect them in any way, shape, or form. So, you're going to stay stuck in that hurt and that wound for the rest of your life. Why don't people forgive? Another reason is because of lack of accountability. Some people refuse to forgive because they believe that the wrongdoer hasn't taken responsibility for their actions or shown remorse. But the problem is that's none of our business. Whether they take responsibility or not, whether they feel remorse or not, that is none of our business. What is our business is what we do with how we feel. Are we going to stay stuck? Are we going to allow that wound to fester? Or are we going to just forgive them? And it's not just forgive them. Forgiveness is a process. But if we don't forgive, we are going to stay in that hurt forever. It's going to hinder our lives, and it's going to prevent us from getting into a new relationship. It's going to prevent us from, going after that promotion and going after our dreams and our goals. It's going to keep us stuck. It's an old pattern, and we're in limbo, and we can't get out. But the way out is forgiveness. We can't determine what other people are going to do. We don't even determine how they're going to feel, but we can determine how we're going to feel and what we're going to do. And some people have a fear of vulnerability. Forgiveness can make a person feel vulnerable, as it involves letting go of the anger and the resentment. But the problem with that is life is full of taking a risk of getting hurt. Anytime you go into a new relationship, you could be hurt. Anytime you go for a promotion and you get it, you could be hurt by your coworkers or, a boss. Anything in life that we do, risk that we take outside of our comfort zone is going to involve some risk of hurt. But we can't not be vulnerable. We can't not venture out of our comfort zones, because if we don't venture out of our comfort zones, we're going to stay stuck. And we fear that if we forgive, that gives these people permission to repeat the offense. But they're going to repeat the offense whether you forgive them or not. If they haven't learned from their behavior, they're going to repeat the offense, and it has nothing to do with you. Your ex is probably going to cheat on the next person, whether or not you forgive them. That boss who's micromanaging you and saying terrible things about you, or those co-workers who are talking behind your back, they're going to do it whether you forgive them or not. So the fact that you think that forgiving them is giving them permission to do it again is ridiculous, because it's not about you. You are not the center of their universe. They are the center of their own universe, and they're choosing this behavior. And we feel like if we forgive, we're losing our power. But the problem is that we are losing our power because we refuse to forgive. We refuse to forgive people because we think that it gives us power. We think that we're in control, but we're not. We're not in control when we don't forgive. We are just keeping ourselves stuck. We're keeping ourselves in that wound. We're rehashing that event in our heads. And for our own sanity, for our own lives, we need to forgive. And then a lot of people, especially in this society, don't want to forgive because they want revenge or they want justice. They want to be petty to that person. They want to, knock out all their windows, or they want to slash all their tires, or they want to key their cars, or they want to, take all their stuff and ruin their credit. The problem with that is that revenge is only good for the moment. The best revenge is a well-lived life. But if we don't get out of our comfort zone, if we don't forgive the person, we can never live a well-lived life. Sometimes we are just stubborn and we don't want to forgive. We don't want to forgive them. We want to hold a grudge for the rest of our lives. But the problem with that is we will never move on with our lives. We will always be stuck and be a slave to that memory of what they did to us. And we don't want to do the emotional healing it takes to forgive. We don't want to deal with our emotions. We don't want to deal with our trauma. We don't want to forgive the person because we have to confront our own pain. And we have a misconception about forgiveness that can hinder the process. We mistakenly think that by forgiving, we are condoning the behavior. We are not condoning the behavior. We are just forgiving and letting it go. We are preventing ourselves from being stuck in that situation. We are taking back our power when we forgive. It's important to note that forgiveness is a deeply personal and individual process. You may choose to forgive over time, while some people may never choose to forgive. Ultimately, forgiveness should be a choice made by you for your own well-being, and not because other people tell you you need to forgive. So, what are the 10 ways to forgive others? One is by acknowledging our feelings. Begin by recognizing and accepting your emotions over the situation. It may be hurt, it may be anger, it may be resentment, but it's important to acknowledge your feelings before you can work on the forgiveness. So, a very good thing to do at this point is to take out a journal and start journaling your feelings. How do you feel about the situation? What comes to mind when you think about the situation? What are those hidden feelings you have about the situation? And what does it make you feel like? So, I was robbed. I was at a bus stop on a Sunday morning on my way to work, and the person next to me asked me a question. They asked me, "Where's this bus go?" I told them, and then the purse that I had in front of me, he grabs it. There's a getaway car parked in front of the bus stop, okay, so that the shopping center on the other side can't see what's going on. So he grabs my purse and he drags me to the car because I am trying not to let him have my purse. Once he drags me to the car, I hear in my head Oprah's words that said, "If they drag you to another location, you're as good as dead." And he started getting aggressive, so I let him have the purse. Now, there were a few sentimental things in that purse. There was a iPod that was given to me the night my mother died. And there was a ring in that purse that was sentimental to me. And I had just got paid, so my debit card was in there. And my phone was in there. And the people at the bus stop didn't do anything to help me. So for me, that was bringing up a sense of helplessness. It was bringing up those same feelings that I felt when my mother was alive, of being helpless and not being able to get out of the situation. So not only did I have to confront the fact that this guy stole my purse, I had to confront the fact that I was feeling this helplessness. So we have to acknowledge our feelings about the situation and what it brings up. We have to understand what forgiveness actually is. We need to educate ourselves about what forgiveness truly means. It's a decision to let go. It is not condoning the behavior. It is not giving them a license to do it again. They are going to do it again whether or not we give them a license to. This is for our own well-being that we decide to forgive. And we have to understand that, because if we don't understand that, we are never going to forgive. And we need to empathize. So put yourself in the other person's situation. What would cause you to do what they did? What would cause you to cheat on your spouse? What would cause you to rob somebody at a bus stop? What would cause you to, treat a person like they're nothing? Or what would cause you to gossip behind people's backs? Maybe the coworkers who are gossiping are doing so because they want to fit in. Maybe my mother was doing that because that's the only way she knew how to get what she wanted or needed. Maybe she didn't have the tools to do it in a more mature manner. Maybe the person at the bus stop was on drugs and needed money for their fix, and they were in an addiction cycle that they couldn't get out of. Maybe the person who was cheating was doing so because they didn't feel comfortable talking to you about their feelings, and they kept getting shut down every time they came to you. But that's no excuse to actually cheat, because cheating has nothing to do with the spouse. It has to do with you and a decision that you make to be the bad person, or to be that person who cheats. But if we put ourselves into their shoes, we might come up with a reason they would do what they did. Still not condoning the behavior, but we can at least empathize with them. And it makes them more human, and we could, have more empathy towards them. And we need to practice self-compassion. We need to be gentle with ourselves. Everybody tells you you need to forgive, you need to forgive, you need to forgive, but you need to be kind to yourself and do it in your own timing. You need to, work it out, journal, go to a therapist if you have to, but you need to be compassionate to yourself, because if you're not compassionate to yourself, then you're never going to be able to give compassion to this other person and what they have done to you. And we need to be compassionate with ourselves, because we tend to focus on the mistakes we make and we don't forgive ourselves as well. We need to see that we didn't have all the tools we needed at the time. We did the best we could, but we still made that mistake, and we need to be kind to ourselves, forgive ourselves, and move on. But too many times we don't forgive ourselves, just like we don't forgive others, and it becomes a problem of us getting stuck. And then we need to express our feelings. We need to do that through journaling, through talking to somebody, talking to your best friend. Not necessarily going to talk to that person, because especially if they've abused you, I am not condoning going to speak to them. I am asking you to forgive them from afar. Because if there's been abuse, mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, if there's been any kind of abuse from the person, don't go see them. Don't go anywhere near them. Forgive from a distance. But we need to express our feelings. We need to also set boundaries specifically with people who've abused us. We need to not let them come around us. We need to block their phone calls. We need to set boundaries in our own lives about what we will and will not do anymore concerning the mistakes we have made. We need to release that resentment. So, one of the things, especially when my mother was going through her divorce, the first divorce, the counselor had her write out a letter of everything she felt towards that person. And then she wrote it out, and instead of sending it to the person, she burned it. So that's symbolic of, we're forgiving you, we're forgiving the situation, and we're burning the letter. So you could do that. You can write it in your journal. You can write it out in a letter and tear it up. So no fire involved, just tearing it up. But we need to release that resentment. We can even go to the gym and go to one of those punching bags and punch out all of our resentment towards the person and speak to the bag as though it is that person. We can also take a chair and we can imagine the person in the chair and let go of all of our resentment by speaking to that person. Practice forgiveness through meditation or prayer. For me, it's prayer, but the feeling that a force outside of yourself is helping you to forgive. We can focus on healing. Focus on the fact that we need this forgiveness in order to move on. We need to focus on it, whether that means going to the person and talking to them and talking it through, whether it means writing a forgiveness letter, whether it's speaking to a therapist or a clergyman or to our best friend. We need to focus on our healing and we need to let it go. But one of the things that works for me is actually just making a decision to forgive. So our feelings are not an accurate judge of what is going on in our lives. Our feelings are just that, feelings. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are correct. So I could feel like one of my coworkers doesn't like me, but it could be that they just are shy, or that they are focused on their own stuff that is happening in their lives. It could have nothing to do with me, but I feel like they don't like me. So my feelings at that point are not an accurate judge of what is actually happening. So you can make a decision to forgive. Now, your feelings are not going to catch up with that decision right away, but they will eventually. So if you make a decision to forgive somebody and let it go, then your feelings eventually are going to come in line with that decision. But too many times we don't even make the decision to forgive. We don't make that decision to forgive because we don't want to condone their behavior. We don't want to, see them repeat the situation again. We don't want to forgive because we think we've got the power. But we don't have the power when we are sitting in unforgiveness of ourselves or others. We have got to make the decision to forgive ourselves for what we've done in the past. We need to make the decision to forgive others for what they have done to us. Like I said, your feelings are not going to manifest that decision right away, but they will eventually catch up with that decision. Remember that forgiveness is a process that takes time and effort. It may not happen all at once, and that's okay. Everyone's journey to forgiveness is unique. The goal is to free yourself from the burden of anger and resentment, allowing you to move forward with greater peace and emotional well-being. Not only do we need to forgive ourselves, but we need to forgive others. We need to make that choice. The choice is yours to make. And there you have it, the incredible power of forgiveness. We hope that today's video has touched your heart and inspired reflection, and maybe even nudged you toward extending the olive branch, whether it's to yourself or someone else. Remember, forgiveness is not about condoning the actions that cause the pain, but it's the gift you give to yourself, allowing you to break free from the chains of resentment and anger. If you found this video valuable and resonated with our message, please consider hitting the like button and sharing it with others who may benefit, and subscribing to our channel for more transformative content on personal growth and well-being. Thank you for listening to me today. Remember, forgiveness is a journey, and it's okay to take small steps towards it. Be kind to yourself and others, and may your life be filled with love, compassion, and forgiveness. Until next time, take care, and always remember the incredible strength that lies within your ability to forgive.
You have been listening to the Anna Gale Lines podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Anna Gale, you can go to annagalelines.com. It's ANNAGAILLYNES.com. And there you can download 2 free chapters of her book Unshakable Purpose. And you can also download her latest science fiction mystery novel called The Last Chance Station for free. You can also buy her fiction and nonfiction books on the website, Amazon, BN.com, Lulu, and many other online outlets. Sign up for the newsletter to keep updated as to what's going on in the world of the Anna Gale Lines podcast and Space-Tastic Mysteries podcast, her fiction podcast where you can hear installments of her novels. To follow her on social media, Lady Anna Gale on TikTok, Anna Gale Lines on Twitter, and Anna Gale Lines Artist on Instagram. Join our Facebook page at facebook.com/author Anna Gale. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being you.